On this Gun Talk Nation, we're talking with John Bailey from EOTECH. You probably know EOTECH optics. They make a lot of different things. We're going to talk about the differences between a holographic sight and a red dot sight. Guess what? They are not the same. Also, some other new things that they've been up to. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Hodgdon, Ballistic Advantage, and Franklin Armory. All right, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Today on Gun Talk Nation, we got our good buddy, John Bailey from, well, it goes by many names, but you probably know it as EOTECH. EOTECH Optics. Welcome in, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we were just talking about, we went on a gator hunt, and we used Voodoo Optics, and then we used the new E-Flex red dots, doing a turkey hunt, gator hunt, and talking about cooking all this gator meat, because I got a bunch back. And you were saying you hadn't tried cooking it yet, huh?
No, I gave a bunch away, and some employees that had it said it was good, but they've all cooked it the same way. They deep fry it. I think that's like the go-to. So I have 3 or 4, 5-pound sections of it, but I'm kind of afraid to cook it other than deep frying, and I haven't pulled the deep fryer out yet. But I'm a little scared because I heard it's got to be done just right, or it gets rubbery, or it's undercooked or something like that. So I'm afraid that I won't cook it the right way and I won't like it.
There's probably a lot of people who are like, alligator? You can eat it. I'm down in South Louisiana, so it's common on menus around here, but it can be a little firmer, be a little chewy or tough. It can be, but I think it's somewhere between chicken and pork. And I've done a few different ways. I've done it blackened in the skillet, just a bunch of butter, season it up, just cook it until it's done. And then dip it in some kind of like comeback sauce or something you come up with. It's just really good. My kids devoured it. I've also just very simple, season it up and throw it on the grill and just grill it. And just make sure you don't overcook it. I mean, it has to be cooked like pork or chicken needs to be cooked, but just like pork or chicken, if you overcook it, then it's tough and it's not as good.
My buddy did. I gave him some and he deep fried it and he said it was delicious. He said the only thing he wouldn't do, he double dipped it in the Drake's, the breading, and it got the consistency of gator to crunchiness was off. So he said if he did it again, he would just drench it one time, but he said it was really good. So I think it's kind of fail proof as long as you don't overcook it.
Yeah, that's the trick. So there you go, everybody. Welcome to Cooking with JB and Ryan. But I did want to talk about, so EOTECH, I mean, if people are familiar, EOTECH, you guys do magnifiers, you do rifle scopes, you do holographic sights, which is probably what people think of as bread and butter. And that schematic you have behind you is what we've seen over the years. But you also have the red dots, the new E-Flex. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about holographic sights versus red dot sights, because a lot of people use them interchangeably, but it's actually different technology, right?
Oh yeah, it's totally different. Yeah, and if we had our wishes, we would have made this pistol sight holographic. But just like the schematic behind me, if you saw a cross section of a holographic sight, there's a lot to it. There's a series of mirrors and lasers and windows and collimators. So there's an enormous optical path that has to occur for the user to finally see the reticle in that window. But the advantages of it are any reticle that you want. So you've probably seen our multi-dot reticles before. We do stuff for less lethal, where you could put it on a beanbag gun or anything like that. And there's ballistic reticles for that. So we can make any reticle we want. Because it uses a laser diode as opposed to an LED, we have the smallest dot in the industry. It's actually smaller than 1 MOA, but my eyes and your eyes can only pick it up that small. So by combining the small MOA dot, 1 MOA dot, and any reticle we want, we can make that circle dot where you can see that thing fast and pick it up really quick. But for 1X, if you're going to go out to 200-300 yards, now you only have 3-inch dot at 300 yards compared to an LED that is going to be a bigger dot anyways. And, so you'll have a 3 or 6 MOA dot, and at 300 yards, that 6 MOA dot's 18 inches. So it's covering a lot of your targets.
It's covering the whole torso.
Yeah. So I've always kind of chalked this up as no compromise. You're able to get the speed in the reticle because you could find it quickly, but the accuracy in the dot because it's smaller than anything else.
And well, so custom reticles, I remember, and you probably remember the zombie reticles. You guys did like a biohazard reticle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could just do anything.
Yeah. And it was a great product and great project. My boss's son actually came up with the idea, but I pulled the biohazard logo off of the internet, modified it a little bit, put the dot in there, and we masked it up and made it and sold over, I think, $3 million worth in that first zombie apocalypse year that we had. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it actually worked. It's very similar to what I would kind of call the traditional EOTECH reticle, which is the big circle with the little dot in the middle. But that little dot in the middle is actually a 1 MOA.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we kept the dot size the same. And actually the inner ring was the same size. It just had those biohazard tails to it. So I kind of chalked it up to, a bright yellow Corvette. It's awesome the first day you had it, but after a while you're realizing, God, I got a yellow Corvette. Same thing with those tails. It was a really kind of obnoxious reticle once you got past the funny and coolness of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was weird. We did have this year or two that was like all about the zombie stuff. Everything was green. All the ammo was green. The knives were green. It was ridiculous.
I still believe my Hornady zombie ammo is growing in my cabinet, because every time I think I'm done, I go back and there's like 2 more boxes of that stuff. It just never goes away.
I thought I shot all this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So holographic, you kind of ran us through that a little bit. Now that versus a red dot, which is actually an LED, right?
Yeah. And our philosophy is a red dot is great for pistols because most of what you're doing is going to be, 7 to 10 yards, really close up. So you don't need real precise dots. You don't need multiple images in a reticle, the circle stuff kind of helps, but an LED is just fine for a pistol sight because of how close it is, how close you're going to be. So yeah, it works just great. And because of all of the technology that's in a holographic sight, it just doesn't scale down that small to a pistol sight. And it really isn't as applicable as it is for something that's going to be on a rifle that gives you much longer range and more accuracy and speed and things like that. So yeah, LEDs are different animals. They're really basic. You basically get, the diodes come in different dot sizes. Some offer circle dots and things like that. But so we were kind of going into a me too. You can only make those things so many ways, but we wanted to follow our legacy with the rectangular window. So our aspect ratio on our eFlex is the same as the holographic sight. So if you've been looking through that for years and then you go to the eFlex, it's going to look the same for you.
Gotcha.
So there we did aluminum housing so that it can be durable and handle all the harsh conditions that it might go through. And then where we really stand out is, in my opinion, is the glass window has none of that real red reflective coatings to it that, with the distortion along the side, we were really able to keep it fairly distortion free and really transparent. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, because a lot of those types of optics, those non-magnified optics, you look through them and it's like a tinted blue or tinted red or something like that. And you can, especially when you're shooting both eyes open, it gets kind of even weirder. So you're saying that your glass doesn't have that tint?
We were able to do it without such a drastic tint. So a lot of times it's very drastic, yellows and oranges and reds. So, your sight picture through the actual glass or the acrylic or plastic, whatever it is, looks totally different than your real surroundings. So we were able to do everything, get the prescription right. And, all of the distortion along the edges fairly clean and not have to have such an abrasive looking reflective lens.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, and you guys have this background in optics. I mean, look, I want to take a quick break. I want to talk about your rifle scopes, the Voodoo lineup, right after this. Franklin Armory is one of those companies that just keeps thinking outside the box. And along those lines, how about the world's first gas piston rimfire in 17 WISM? Wiggity, what? Yeah, it's the F17X. It's a slimline gas piston system, new handguard, integrated hand stop, barrier stop, 16-inch barrel, and rotating locking bolt. This is a different animal, and yes, it shoots 17 WISM. I mean, this is like the ultimate in varmint gun. So check out that one, the F17X at Franklin Armory, and all their other interesting innovations. Springfield Armory's newest is the 1911 Emissary, and they have a whole series of Emissary guns, but this one is 9mm. It's a 4.25 inch 1911. And man, these are just tricked out, solid bull barrel feel. But then they put a lot of other features in there that are really kind of look good, but they work well for the shooter. So for instance, UDOT sight picture, love that. Flat top slide serrations, love that. And I mentioned the bull barrel. A 9mm 1911 is probably one of the more sweet shooting pistols out there. So check them out. Springfield Armory's Emissary line. JB rifle scopes. Voodoo, VUDU. You have a wide variety of stuff. I mean, what seems to be, when people are using your rifle scopes, what seems to be the trend these days?
Yeah, we're learning a lot. So we launched Voodoo Scopes in 2016, and we were trying to be at the high end of everything to compete with, high-end Vortex and Night Force and Schmidt and Benders and those. And what we found is we compete really well with them. But what we found is our Voodoo line, kind of turned into more of a precision tactical scope more than it did a hunting scope. Even though we have a couple of scopes that are dedicated more to a hunting situation, a second focal plane, that kind of stuff. The trend really for us that we found is either low power variables or pretty good high range scopes. So our 1-6, 1-8, and our brand new 1-10 that you used on that Gator are extremely popular. And then the others are kind of popular. And then you jump to our 5-25, which is an incredible scope. It's only 11.2 inches long. And to have that type of range is incredible, and that does extremely well. So those are kind of the niches that our customers kind of created for us, and those are the real popular ones. But we still do really well with our bench rest scope and our in-betweeners, our 3.5 to 18s and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that we've had this journey, this evolution of optics. And first off, the optics for ARs or any type of carbine, where it was iron sights and people just shot iron sights all the time. Then it became some sort of lit reticle, unmagnified optic, whether that be holographic EOTECH or some sort of red dot version of something, which is great. And I think for that, you can reach out realistically, consistently a couple hundred yards with that.
Right.
And then we started getting into these low power variable optics, LPVO. Yeah. Yep. We like to abbreviate everything. And in 1-4, we thought, well, this is the bee's knees. 1-4. You got, a 1 power, unmagnified, and then you can now go out to 400, 500 yards with this thing. And I just keep getting like, oh my gosh, it's not like there's nothing wrong with the 1-4, but now we've got a 1-6. And then we got, some people have 1-8s, and you've got a 1-10. Mm-hmm. Which the bad news is, everybody, it'll do everything. So, like my buddy J Dot would say, well, that's not that fun. You just have the one rifle and the one scope and it just does everything. Right. We just want to own lots of guns. Don't give me a reason to have one gun, but it's awesome. And that's a lot of technology into a little package.
Yeah, it is. And, you probably are aware of this too, by talking with millions of people. we realized a long time ago that everybody is all about magnification. The more magnification, the better. And that's not always true, but yeah, 1 to 4s turned into 1 to 6s, and 1 to 6s turned into 1 to 8s. And as the erector assemblies get better and better, 1 to 10s are now out, and who knows what's next. But I think our 1 to 10 is doing so well because, you know, the most popular scope in the world is a 3x9. I mean, there's more of those that sell, but none really sell beyond $199. So the 1 to 10, I think, fits that range, and it's perfect for everybody. But you're getting all the quality and craftsmanship and accuracy and clarity and all that stuff. So I think part of the fascination of your 1 to 10s and even kind of 1 to 8 is there in a way is that it still fits that 3 to 9 type magnification, the do all. I mean, it will do everything. I mean, from close quarter to you could shoot 1,000 yards with a 10 power. I mean, people have done it before. Is it the best?
Sure.
No, but it's completely universal. It's just a great overall scope.
Yeah, it's just really impressive of what's, you know, happened with technology and the erector sets and all that stuff. Talk about the illuminated reticles, because this 1 to 10 does have that.
Yeah, well, it's a good question, or a good way to bring this up. There are 2 different ways to illuminate a reticle, and I think I mean, our competitors probably deal with the same thing, but we get kind of bashed every once in a while on our 1 to 6 and our 1 to 10 because it's not daylight bright. People don't consider it as daylight bright. And the reason why it is, they're first focal plane scopes and they're glass etched reticles, meaning the reticle is actually cut out of the glass in the front. So when the LED hits that, it illuminates all the etching that's in the glass. Well, when you're doing that, you're spreading that LED light across that whole thing, and you're not going to get all the power into one tiny little point. You're getting it across there. So it lights it up, but it's really ideal for like low light, you know, morning and night type stuff. But it's not going to be considered daylight bright where you can hold this thing, you know, on clouds and, you know, white clouds and stuff like that and see it all the time. So
and really honestly, you know, I would say that most people shouldn't be shooting at clouds. It's a bad idea. It's just not safe.
Yeah. That's a lot of Kentucky windage right there if you're holding that high.
How far was that deer? Jeez.
Yeah, just lobbing it in there. But our 1 to 8 kind of solved that in a way because it's second focal plane. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be glass etched. It's not moving that way. So we were able to use a fiber optic and run that down and have a fiber optic dot. Now all your light is in that one point, and it's going to be extremely bright. So our 1 to 8 is daylight bright. But people don't know the differences between there, and they want everything to be daylight bright. But you know, if they want first focal plane, I think one company does it, and I don't think they do a very good job at it. It's just too tough to do in first focal plane. So that's the difference between the lit reticles.
So when you're looking at it, you may notice it looks different, but that's why.
Yeah, and it'll be illuminated, but it'll be harder to see in bright conditions because it just a glass etched reticle illuminated just gets washed out in bright stuff, whereas that single illuminated diode that's coming down won't get washed out in bright situations.
You were talking about the 5 to 25, which if you tell somebody who shoots rifles, I've got a 5 to 25 scope on my gun, the image in my head is like this F-class giant, like it's like a 2-foot long scope on top of the rifle. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, we're talking about 11 inches. If you looked at this scope, you would probably say, I would say it looks like it's about a 2 to 7. That's what it looks like. A 2 to 7 variable optic kind of deal. But it goes all the way up to 25 power. Obviously super popular. What are people using this for?
A lot of it is PRS. You know, so that you're challenged with close range, medium range, long range, so you can dial all the way down to 5 power and still be able to see or look for targets and engage targets, all the way up to 25, where you could reach out beyond 1,000 easily. So it's a good universal scope that probably doesn't have the need for 1x. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And we were able to do all that. The common term is squeezing a balloon. With optics, when you squeeze a balloon, if you want short, you're going to typically give up on eye relief or light, transmission, or you're giving up something like that. And our engineers did a fantastic job working all the compromises so that our eye box is awesome, our eye relief is awesome, the light transmission is great, and you're able to have a really short system like that. And honestly, I'm going to get you out someday, but it is ideal to put on an AR style rifle and put a clip-on thermal in front of it and slay the hogs, because you have that room with all of that. Yeah. It's awesome.
It leaves you, what I like to say, it leaves you rail estate to mount things.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, we're talking about these terms. Optics gets into terms, and then there's also some other new stuff you guys are up to. After this break, I want to talk about that. So you're thinking about building an AR-15, or maybe you've already built several and you're like, well, what else is there to do here? How about Ballistic Advantage, ballisticadvantage.com? You can build a 6.5 Creedmoor AR. Yep, they've got them in 16-inch barrel, 18-inch barrel, and 22-inch barrel, 20-inch barrel. So some variety and flavors there. But talk about something cool that you can do. An AR-15 and 6.5 Creedmoor. Give you a little bit more power if you want to take it hunting, and certainly a little bit more ballistic advantage, if you will, for shooting at longer distances. SIG SAUER has a deal going on right now. If you buy a P365, you'll get extra stuff. So anyone who purchases a new P365 pistol from now through September 25th, 2022, you'll receive an additional magazine and a box of ammunition at no charge. You just have to go to their website and fill it out. Obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, you know the P365 is one of the most popular small concealed carry guns out there. So if you're thinking about getting one, now's a good time, because you're going to get an extra mag and some extra ammo for free. Just find out more at sigsauer.com. Okay, JB, iBox, and I want to just give the dumb man's version of like, okay, dude, what's iBox? Why does it matter?
Yeah. And I'm no optics engineer, but what, from an application, from using it, it's a combination of your eye relief, but it's also your side to side movement of your head. It's how much you can still see through the scope and see your target in your reticle while being able to move left and right. It's the forgiveness of that left and right movement.
And the forgiveness is going to help you find the target, get on the target, shoot the target quicker, because you're not doing the neck dance of trying to find the reticle and get a clear picture through your scope.
Yeah, that's right. It's not hard to find your target, but to keep your head perfectly still to stay on your target on a scope that doesn't have a very good eye box is really tough. So the minute you think you're on it and your head moves a little bit and you lose it, you got to start all over again.
Yeah.
So to have a really forgiving eye box makes those movements, especially if you're under stress, makes those movements a lot easier.
Well, think about it in like a PRS type of situation. And I mean, the top guys have it all figured out, but if for those of us who are, you're trying to get a little better at it, you're trying to figure this out, you shoot, you run the bolt on a bolt PRS gun, and then you're having to reacquire that target or a different target, and it's timed, right? So, right. I mean, like, if you're searching to just see through the scope, which we've all seen people do that dance of moving their head up and down the stock and up and down and trying to find the reticle and the target and all that stuff, you just waste so much time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's eye relief too. You get that chicken neck thing going back and forth, and if you have a very forgiving eye relief, you can be kind of within that realm and have that eye box, and you're just on target much quicker. And you know what? It's seconds for those guys. That's really what it comes down to.
So I know that EOTECH, you guys have a long history of working with elite military special forces folks, both on the kind of entry, basic, the holographic sight stuff. I mean, you see it in a lot of movies and being used there. You guys have, in previous, I guess, versions of the company done some pretty wicked thermal and night vision and stuff like that. But talk about what's new with you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. So January of this year, we partnered with a company called Theon, and they're a Greek manufacturer of night vision and thermal. They don't have a presence here in the United States, and that was actually perfect for us, but they supply NATO forces and a lot of international MODs with really high quality night vision and thermal. So when we were divested by L3, we lost that relationship with L3 to sell their night vision and thermal, but we had tons of customers, LE agencies and federal agencies that kind of saw us as that night vision thermal provider. So we had to do one of two things. We had to figure out how to manufacture it ourselves, which that takes a long, long time and a lot of money, or find somebody that manufactures something that fits our brand and our quality, that we can either brand by itself or help design and then brand ourselves. So Theon was a good partner because they don't have the presence here in the United States. We do, and we have the customer base. So we partnered with them. We initially launched 7 different products. 2 are night vision goggles. One's a standard bino equivalent to the L3 product that's out there. And then one's a slicker, smaller, less foam, but a smaller diameter tube, a little more compact. We do a single monocular in night vision, all Gen 3 white phosphorus stuff.
This is the higher end, really high quality stuff.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for inexpensive stuff, don't go to my website. But if you're looking for quality, really quality stuff and equivalent or better in some features than what's out there by L3 and some others, I would put us against any of them. And our clip-on night vision stuff is the same way. It's really high quality, high resolution clip-on night vision devices that go from like medium range scopes to high to even extra high range magnification ranges. Yeah, it's really impressive stuff.
So here's a question. We started off talking about gators and gator hunting. And then we're talking about night vision and thermal. Would thermal work on gators? Would you, because they're cold-blooded, right?
Yeah, it does. It's really tough. They are cold-blooded. And I've had handheld thermals out in Texas.
Okay.
And you could see them crossing the water, but it's very, very tough. I think it's just the difference between their temperature and the water temperature. It's just subtly different. So you can see them, but yeah, they don't stand out like a hog does or anything like that. There's no bright white, but you can discern them if you have a good quality handheld or a clip-on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they're in the water, even more so, right? Because they're wet, they're almost, and that's what thermal relies on, is it's not just detecting heat, but detecting a difference in temperature, right?
Right. Yeah. And then water throws the extra issue with reflectivity. So if there's any heat signature on the other side of the river or wherever you're at, and that's reflecting in, you're going to see that house or whatever that is in the water, which would make it more difficult to see. But yeah, it's really it's showing you the differences between temperature in that sight picture.
So maybe our answer is night vision, maybe even to add an illuminator or something like that.
I think if we're going to do gators again, it'd be samurai swords, but we could try night vision or thermal.
Hey, look. Someone's going to write in and be like, you can't do that at night. I don't know. I don't know what the laws are. I promise I would follow the laws. We're just playing what if right now. Okay.
Right.
I'm not saying that I'm going to do night hunting for gators if that's not allowed. I wouldn't do that. But
if it is, it's probably Texas, but yeah, we'll check into it.
If it is allowed, we will find that place and we will go there.
That's right.
Oh man. Well, cool. So John, how do people find out more about what you guys are up to? Is there a best place to go shopping?
Well, for everything that we talked about, our website would be best, and that's eotechinc.com. And then once you get there, there's headers for everything. So there's a headers for holographic.
Cool.
There's a headers for rifle scopes, for night vision thermal, and then E-Flex has its own. So it should be very easy just from the homepage to navigate and check all those out. All the specifications are on there. We do sell direct from our website. It's all at full MSRP, so it won't be competitive with our dealers, but you'll see all the specifications. You'll see what MSRP is, so you can kind of start the shopping there. And then we encourage you to go to our dealer network and check them out by hand and play with them a little bit, and hopefully end up purchasing.
Very good. All right. EOTEChinc.com is where you go to find out more. You know, JB will be posting gator recipes pretty soon. You know, he'll have his own Cajun restaurant up in Michigan. It's going to be a whole thing.
That's right. Gators for all. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Well, man, thanks for being with us today. It's been fun.
No, I appreciate it. Anytime. I look forward to getting down to your new place and doing some shooting. So I look forward to it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that's it for us. Hope you have a good rest of your week. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.